Hi, I'm Wendy Yellen, and in this month we're working with videos about how to love better. And I've subtitled this vlog something like, just because your parents did it this way doesn't mean you have to, or your parents fought this way, but you don't have to. So before we continue, if you want to have more videos like this, be sure to like the video and click subscribe, and then you'll be notified of future videos. And thank you so much to my subscribers. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be, as always, checking my notes so I make sure I don't miss anything. Here's the main point. We learn from our parents about so many things, whether we want to or not, but without even meaning to learn this, what we do is we learn how to relate intimately, whether both parents were in the home or not. And then unconsciously, we tend to repeat the patterns that we saw, often to our own detriment, in our own intimate relationships, and usually quite unconsciously and with a feeling of, I'm right. So how do we become aware of those patterns? How do you become even more aware of these patterns so you can begin to shift them? In today's video, I'm going to give you an experiential exercise that's going to give you proof of what is going on inside you, often unconsciously, and it's also proof of an understanding and experience of what makes it so hard to change. I'll walk you through an experience of what's going on inside you right now that is driving your intimate relationships or driving the way you are in them, perhaps into the ground or certainly to a place you don't like, or you probably wouldn't even be listening to this video. So this experience can be super eye-opening. It really was for me. As long as you go into it without preconceptions, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. It can also be a beginning step for you of allowing things to be different inside you and between you and the person you love, or it could be helpful for you to look at past relationships so that the future relationship doesn't turn out the same, which of course it often does. So we really want to make an intervention into ourselves, because we're the ones here. You're the one that's here watching, not your partner. So let's start with here. Yes, it takes two to tango. And in my experience, this is a really powerful way to create change, because once somebody starts moving differently, the other person, if there's love and caring there, will often just follow suit without even thinking about it. That's been my experience. A lot of times there are things that we don't even notice that we're doing. They seem normal or natural. For example, my mother constantly nagged my father about putting his stuff on the table. Papers. There were papers everywhere in my house. Every flat surface had a paper. My mother never stopped nagging, and my father never stopped putting them on the flat surfaces till the day he died. It didn't work. So why, in any logical way, would I take on nagging as a way to deal with my husband's activities that I didn't like? Doesn't make any sense, but that's what I did. And if you think about it, I am certain that you will find ways that you are repeating what you saw that was completely ineffective, that probably drove the other parent wildly mad, and yet you're still doing it on some level. Take a good look. So I've been with Michael about little more than 40 years now, and I knew I was nagging, but it made sense to me. What else is a gal to do, right? That's what I saw. So I didn't really take in what it was doing to me, what it was doing to him, and how completely ineffective it was. I just thought if I did it long enough, it would work. But, my mother's, I don't know how many years, it never did. We're just such strange creatures. So maybe, again, you don't nag specifically, but take a look at what it is that you're doing that take a moment to think about what's not working and see if you can find it also in what you saw growing up. Now I'm going to give you a solution, a beginning solution to the problem through an eidetic image. So it's going to show you 5 important aspects of relationship. I'm going to go into those afterwards because I don't want to give you preconceptions. All right, you can do this with your eyes open or closed. This is one of thousands of eidetic images created by Dr. Ahsen, who is my mentor and friend and teacher. Okay. See your parents running in an open countryside from a time when you're growing up. Now, it doesn't matter if you never saw them running. It doesn't matter if they divorced. Don't choose an age. Don't choose a time. Just listen to the instruction and allow an image to come to you. That's what an eidetic image is. So I'll say it again. See your parents running in an open countryside from a time when you're growing up. You can pause the recording as much as you need to give yourself more time. And I want you to really look and notice how they're running. Is one person running faster? Is one person running more slowly? Do they seem to be running together or separately? Take a look. We're not talking about what happened in history or your memories. This is a completely different aspect of you. This is a deep consciousness. What is the purpose of their running? If you can't, see if you can tell just by looking. Does either parent need help? Does either parent want help? Is help being offered, if it's needed or wanted or not? And if it's being offered, how is it being received? Notice again what you see, not thinking about history or memory, that's not where we're going. And then how you feel when you see it. Okay. Really, really notice. It doesn't have to be vivid, don't worry about that part. Is there a pattern to their running? And pause the video and write some notes down because you'll want to have this information for yourself when we talk for today and for the rest of the month too. Now, you can do this also. You can go back and redo this with yourself and a partner. It's really interesting. And you'll want to notice all the different aspects that I mentioned. So we talked about speed, pattern, purpose. I didn't mention energy and interest, but you definitely will be able to see that in your image. So you might make a note of that before you forget. I'll go into the quote-unquote meaning of all this later in a little bit. But first, I want to give you an example. So this image is actually part of a series of images that is called a consciousness mapping, where we go deep into what's holding you back and what is needed to shift that holding back. So one of my clients who's been married for a long time, in her first mapping, I want to tell you more or less what she saw. So in her first mapping, her mother was really lagging behind, but her father wasn't looking back. And her mother, my client said, her mother seemed to be on her own. And father's only focused on what's ahead and not at all on mother, who's kind of like by herself. And it's almost like father's not even noticing. Now your image will probably be completely unique. My image was different. Everybody's is different because our consciousnesses are different. Let's call her Barbara. So Barbara really was feeling so much identification with her mother in her current life when we first started. She felt alone, she wanted help, she felt left behind. So she was seeing in the image was reflective, very reflective of her current marriage. Now we really didn't work on her marriage, but she works intensely on herself. And so now what's coming up naturally in her life, and in her life is fun, connection. They are no longer ships passing in the night. They're truly heart connected now in a way which I think she had probably given up on. And how is that showing up in her images, which is how we work this, how things work through for her in her consciousness. Both parents are running now. They're playful, they're having fun, they're full of life, they're joyful and carefree. And as she looks at them, she feels warm and secure. And that's exactly what's reflected in the way she feels with her husband. So she watched her image in the beginning, and she wasn't feeling warm and secure. She was feeling terrible and very much identifying with mother. So you want to notice, I suggest that you notice what you're experiencing as you watch your own image. Now, about meaning, you can see and feel in these images. The meaning at this point has to do with how you're feeling as you watch the image. Not what you're thinking about the image, but how you're feeling as you watch the image. So for example, she felt insecure, and she felt alone, and she felt that, I'm looking back to my notes, that she wanted mom to have some help, and father was just ignoring mother, all things that she was feeling in a relationship. So if you delve into how you're feeling watching this, you'll find a lot of correspondence with how you're feeling right now. You most likely will. So the image is showing you what's happening inside you that is part of the problem, but the solution's in the image too. We will get to more of that in future videos. I want to take one step at a time with you. But if you'll watch this image and just spend some time looking at it and allowing it to have a mind of its own, you'll see that things will happen. And I'll also help you with that in future videos. So my hope for you is that you have at least a little bit more insight from what we talked about in the beginning and from your own image here, eidetic image, that we've drawn back the curtain a little bit into what you're doing that you weren't quite as aware of. Maybe there's some painful recognition. If there is, that would be so great, because once there's what is often painful recognition of what you're doing, then you can no longer keep doing it without realizing it. And once you realize what you're doing and the extent to which it isn't helping and hurting you and the other person, once you really get it, then it's, again, much harder to keep doing it, and then you'll have an opening to be able to shift. Because the way our parents did things, whether good, bad, or indifferent, so much affects how we do things now. And it has nothing to do with forgiving them or understanding them. The problem is they're inside us now. And I'm hoping that you're seeing that in your image. Most of you will. Most people will. So by experiencing these patterns, you'll see what you've been, what I call insistently blind to, and then you can have at least the option of making a different choice. And then in future videos, I'll show you how to not only have a mental option, but for those options for different choices to be coming through naturally for you. Okay, here's my suggestion to do for until next time. Pay attention to the situation between you and your loved one, or the one in the past if you're not in one right now, and notice how any of the patterns that you see in the running image are playing out between the two of you now. And see if they're positive or negative, and they're feeling good or not so good. So if there's positive interactions with your parents in the image, but it's not happening now in your relationship, notice that. If it's negative patterns in the image and some of those negative patterns are happening now, just notice. Again, simply being aware of this can help you, and having the pain of it, not just thinking it, but knowing it from deep inside, can help you stop. And once you stop, you're going to see there's lots of other choices. And I'll show you more about that in upcoming videos. See you then. You already know that there's so much more to life than what you're currently experiencing, or at least you hope so. And you also know that you didn't come here for a life half lived. There is much more for you. So let's start. Go to www.measiwanttobe.com. There's an application there. Fill it out and submit it. And then we'll meet by phone. During that time, I'll show you how your eidetic image is showing you, pinpointing exactly where the difficulties are arising from, and also, even better, your unique way out. We'll also go over what you're experiencing right now in your life, what you want, and how it might work for us to work together privately with Eidetics. And this is true no matter how much personal work you've done. There's absolutely no obligation. This is my gift to you. It's a gift of my time. www.measiwanttobe.com, and please hit subscribe before you leave. There is so much more to life than what you may currently be experiencing, and you don't have to do this alone. Hope to talk to you soon.